Motorheads, thank you for clicking on Race22 Radio. I'm Doc Love, your resident Motorhead.
Nicholas Van Helsing, professor of proctology and other related tendencies, graduate of the University of Rangoon, and assorted night classes at the Knoxville, Tennessee College of Faith Healing.
You may be a little overqualified for this job.
House Call with Doc Love is presented by Black Acid Racing Apparel, the official outfitter of Race22 Radio, and it can also get you and your sponsors that all-important exposure at the track as well. Get a head start on your artwork for 2021. Connect with them on Facebook. Black Acid Racing Apparel.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man, you just go on there and point and click, get in there and talk about www.com, and you got to go click. It's real easy, man.
Today on the Smokin' Dave's Barbecue Hotline, I'll be connecting with 19-year-old super late model driver Kodie Conner from Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you! I'm bigger than you, I'm higher in the food chain! Get in my belly! Come on!
Remember, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue is located in Roxboro, North Carolina. For the next time you want real barbecue, tell them old Doc Love from Race22 Radio sent you. Real barbecue, real flavor.
Fantastic!
Click on their social pages for upcoming specials. Smokin' Dave's Barbecue, Roxboro, North Carolina. For the last couple of years, we've seen Kodie Conner campaign as super late model with the Solid Block Carriers Cars Tour. And at 19 years old, he's already been racing more than 10 years. Let's see, let me do the math here. Kodie, when did you start racing?
I started out in quarter midgets, age 4.5. I raced quarter midgets until I was 8 years old. I moved into a Bandolero, and then I went into a full-size Pro Late Model car with the Pro All-Star Series when I turned 11, and then in 2015 we got the Pro Late Model Championship, and that's whenever Pro All-Star Series did away with the Pro Late Model, so we had no choice but to move up to the Super Late Models. So that's pretty much 2016 is whenever I really got into Super Late Model racing.
Oh, wow. So you really jumped up several classes if you look at the scheme of things. Before we go any further, what was it that got you saying that I want to race, I want to go fast? Was it something in the family? Was it because of your dad? What was the fire behind you to start racing?
The main thing was back in New Jersey. My dad was racing. My grandfather and my uncle, they all raced together, and they did it for a little while. And my parents moved down to North Carolina in '98, and it was whenever I was born. Dad was working on race teams, so I was always involved in racing, and just around the shop and sitting inside different race cars, taking the lug nuts off, and then Dad asked me if I wanted to race, and I said, sure, let's give it a try. And once I got in it once, I was hooked.
That was all she wrote.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I've loved it ever since.
So you basically grew up with it. It's kind of like your culture. So this is like just comes natural. So since you've been around it, and it's obviously in the bloodline with your grandfather. Where did your grandfather and father race up in New Jersey?
They raced Wall Stadium, Flemington Speedway, New Egypt. They traveled. They traveled pretty much all around that area, and they raced little street stocks. I think Dad raced almost like a dirt modified on asphalt. So he was involved in a couple different races. My dad won the Race of Champions, and
oh wow,
he was a pretty good driver himself. So I pretty much got his talents and then some.
There you go. And throw in your grandfather's talent. So, yeah, there you go. That's the advantage.
Yeah.
Now, your dad is obviously involved with your racing now. Does he kind of serve as crew chief?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, he is always right there with me. It's only him and I in the shop, and I own all my own equipment, my race team. So it's pretty much just my dad and I. And when we go to the racetrack, it's sometimes I'll have a full-time guy. His name is Chris Wood. He's a volunteer, and he comes on and he'll help me out. And Kodie Jones, he's an engineer at Junior Motorsports. He helps me out a lot for sure. But I really don't have anybody to come to the racetrack and help, or I really don't have much shop help. But my spotter, Brett Edwards, he comes by every now and then, and he'll give the car a good bath, which she really needs it, especially after a 300-lap race.
So when you go from, the Bandoleros and you went from the quarter midgets and you bypass the legend cars or what have you, whatever's next, old school days, you went from street stock to, super stock, or then, you end up in late model. How was it that you decided to, with your family, you being so young, what was that decision like to say, okay, we're going to put him in a souped up go-kart and put him in a full body, offset, pro late model. What do you recall some of that? How did all that come to be?
Pretty much what it comes down to is the expenses. When we were quarter midget racing, we pretty much ran a Bandolero based off of what we ran a quarter midget budget off of. And I did get to try a legend car. I raced it one time, and I ended up winning my first race in it. So legend car was awesome. That was the big thing, because I did double duty. I did a Bandolero and a legend car, and I was all set on that legend car. I said, this is where I want to be. And then Dad says, well, you got your option. You can race legend car, or you can do pro late model. And pro late model, because it's a full size car, And legend cars, it's very expensive for what it is. The spindles bend real easily. It's really not what it's cracked up to be. There's definitely a lot of drivers in it, but you can really only get your parts and everything from one place, 600 racing. So I've also had some problems with INX in the past, and I ended up getting screwed out of a championship for the national championship. We were at the last race. I was racing Bandoleros, and before the race, we went up to the director and says, "Hey, watch this guy. He's gonna try and wreck us at the end of the race if we're trying to beat him." And sure enough, at the end of the race, he ran me from the top all the way down to the infield, and he ended up beating me, and they gave him the national championship. So he was dirty driving a lot, but I feel I ran a pro late model full size car for the same budget, if not less, than what I could run a legend car for.
Oh wow, that's neat to hear a young racer look at it business wise as well, because budgeting, dollars and cents, you gotta factor that in. A lot of young racers don't even think about that. They show up and spend mom and dad's money, but you seem to have a whole different type of program where how old are you now? You 20 or 21 yet?
I'm 19.
19. Not even 20 yet. Okay, I'm real good at can't spell, can't do math. That's that's what I get for getting old. So yeah, it's very, very impressive, Kodie, to know that you do your own stuff, that you put your budgets together, and you race based off of that. You don't just show up and spend some daddy's money or what have you. I know they're there for support, but to hear you talk about that is so impressive, that you really look at the business side of it, of this sport, even at the short track level. And whatever you're jumping in, you have pretty good success. So now with you keeping up with the money and the budget and what it takes to race, does that help you in the car to take better care of it?
For sure. I know it's really tough. I don't want to put myself in situations that I don't need to be in. I would much rather finish a race in one piece than make a stupid call and have the chance of either advancing 2 places or wrecking the race car. So it all comes down to, I know what it takes to fix the car when it gets wrecked. I mean, I've pretty much had to fix the front and rear clip, taking everything off, bringing it to Fury race cars and having them put a clip on and then getting it back and trying to get everything ready to go within the time frame of one race to the next. So it does take a lot of time, and it does help me have more respect for my own equipment and for other drivers' equipment. There are a couple of drivers that spend hellacious amount of money in one race, and I feel it takes their respect for the car and for the team out of it. They're looking, okay, I'm spending this money and I should have the best, and I should be able to do pretty much whatever I please. And what it comes down to is, although there are a lot of drivers and racing involves a little bit of rubbing, you don't put yourself in situations where you have the chance to take another driver out of the race, because every driver's in there to be the best, but race everybody clean. So I feel a clean driver, if you can pass somebody clean, even if it takes a couple extra laps, then you're a much better driver than somebody that has to move you to get past you.
Yeah, it don't take much skill to wreck somebody. I'm proof of that. I run into everything and don't mean to. So, that takes no talent. But, yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of folks, and I hear it. I've spent this X of money. I've got this. I expect to be running up front. And the kind of missing that middle part that you just talked about. So that is so impressive. 19 years old, folks, talking about dollars and cents and budgeting these race cars. Now, let me ask you about doing a presentation for sponsorship. Now, are you doing that in front of companies and CEOs?
I would like to. I'm in the process of trying to find some sponsorship for the marketing partners for the Snowball Derby. Right now, COVID has made everything real tough.
Yes.
I would much prefer to speak face-to-face rather than sending emails, but emails are a lot easier for me. I'm in the process of trying to start my own lawn care business, and I have been pretty busy with that. But before I was in high school and at the Rowan Salisbury or the Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and I graduated with an associate's degree. So during schooling, I was pretty wound up with schoolwork. I mean, I was countless hours just making sure that I had everything done, studying so I'd be okay. And so having my high school diploma as well as associate's degree was definitely a big step. But I'm just trying to be able to do everything that I can, as well as my own social media. And I would really like to be able to go to companies and speak to them face to face, tell them, hey, look, this is what I can do for you. And the hard thing is, a lot of companies have been burned in the past by drivers that have the money and say, hey, if you do this for me, I'll do this. And the company does their part, and when it comes around to it, the driver doesn't do their part. Right. And it's really tough for a little team like myself, where when I say I'd like to be able to do something, I'm going to do everything I can to be able to do it. So it does hurt sometimes. I send out a lot of emails, and I more so get no's or non-replies. And I mean, I still keep digging, but I'm hoping for this little break that I can get. Snowball Derby is for sure the biggest race of the year, and if I'm able to make that happen, I'll be in the seat for a little while. So hopefully, when it comes race for the big race time, I'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, no doubt. And you touched on something there. Everybody, like yourself, your dad came down to the Carolinas to work for a race team, and that's what everybody thinks across the country. Oh, I need to go to North Carolina, so I can get into racing. Well, like you said, when you approach a company that has already had maybe a bad dealing, that's a hard sell. So, and that's something that I'm so impressed with you, Kodie, because you talked about what you can do for the sponsor. There's so many people that say, I need somebody to help pay for my racing. No, it don't work that way. They have to have a return on investment, and they know it's, it's a chance. So you really have to sell yourself and the exposure that you can get to them, and you have to do more than just race. And that's so impressive to hear you say that. I think a lot of times that's missing in short track racing today versus 20 years ago. The way the sport has changed and the money has changed, because there's very few teams like you, Kodie, that do it in the garage, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Back when I was a teenager, hanging around the short tracks, everybody worked out of the garage. Everybody had an open trailer, trailer there. So, it's changed so much, and I've been away from the sport for so long and coming back. And I used to say, gosh, the racers are getting younger and younger. I've been away for 10 years. I come back. Oh, my gosh, now they're 11 and 12 years old in a pro late model. And I'm just blown away.
Yeah.
But, however, you've seen a lot of good talent, come up from that age. And you're proof that it can be done, and it can be done the right way. I think what you guys are doing it the right way. Let's talk about the exposure, how to stand out. When everybody's trying to do the same thing, you got to be creative to stand out. Is that where the tiger stripes come from?
Yes. Whenever I was about maybe 3 or 4 years old, my dad took me to a monster jam, and there was a tiger and a cheetah monster truck. And I said, Daddy, look at that. That's what I want my first race car to be. Because he was talking to me when I try racing. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So once we got the tiger, everybody loved the tiger. And now it's kind of like my trademark.
Right.
So the cool thing is, if they don't know my name, Kodie Conner, they know the Tiger Kid or the Tiger Man. So it's pretty much right there. The kids love the tiger car, and seeing their excitement makes me happy, and it just that's another way for me to keep going. You know what I mean? It's fuel for me, and it's pretty great. Each racetrack that I go to, it's a different crowd of fans, and the cool thing about being able to go to different racetracks further out that I've never been to, I went to Pensacola, Jennerstown, and going to Nashville, it was just phenomenal. The real thing that kind of sucks is the coronavirus. There's not the fans. Their capacity isn't what it used to be. So there were a few people that weren't able to make it. But I mean, even though it's just, you go there, you hear the fans hooting and hollering. I mean, that's awesome. That's enough to be able to keep a driver going for the rest of the season.
That's right, and you touched on something there, talking about when you do a pit party or meet and greet, and these young fans come up. You might be inspiring the next generation of racers. You might set that seed with them, and that's what it's all about. We want to keep this sport healthy for a long, long time. So I think it's great. Have you noticed that after leaving the Carolinas to race at the bigger super late model races, a lot of fans follow the super late model crowd. When the big races are here in Pennsylvania or in Florida or in Indiana, after you left North Carolina, go, let's say, Pennsylvania, and when you went to another track, did you see any fans saying, "Oh, I remember you"? Did you see any fans that had kind of picked up on you because you stand out with the tiger stripes and the performance? When you go to some of these other tracks, have you noticed anybody that's already saying, "Hey, man, what's this kid all about?"
Oh yeah, and that's definitely the cool thing about it, is pretty much everywhere I go, it's around where I live. I venture out. Furthest is 3.5 hours due to lack of funds. It's very expensive to go drive 9 hours to Florida or 7 hours to Jennerstown. So it was a nice feel good moment going to these different racetracks that I've never been to, and I went to one racetrack and I had the same, if not more, cheers than Bubba Pollard. So
That's awesome.
that was, I was ecstatic. You know what I mean? That was, I'm out here. I'm doing everything that I can. I have passion for my sport. I love racing. I love working on the race cars, and most importantly, I love being able to meet new people, meet new fans, be able to meet existing fans, and that's that's what definitely keeps me rolling. Is I go to a new racetrack and there's fans that say, "Hey, man, I've been following you for a few years. Nice to meet you," and that just makes me feel great. That's more than winning the race to me.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of investing in your sport. Investing, keep those fans coming, and the more that fan goes, the more you're going to become, as I say, a household name. Bubba Pollard, you don't see him show up the track with a, double stacker tractor and trailer and 15 crew. He's been around and stayed in the sport for a long time, so obviously he knows these cars in and out, and they get the job done. So when you race against someone like that, that's a good measuring stick, and you're already, as far as the fans, you're getting them on your side, just, because everywhere he goes, he's got a lot of fans. So that's awesome. That's the first step of showing a company what you can do and the exposure that you get, and some of these other crazy ideas that you have. You're very creative with the tiger stripes. I really like that. That's pretty cool. It's easy to spot on the track too when we're taking pictures.
Yeah, very true.
And it helps the spotter too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's one good thing is you can't lose where the tiger car is on the racetrack, but a lot of cars are kind of the same. They're either black and red, or they got a little bit of white in another color. So I just definitely like to be able to stand out. My fire suit is all tiger striped as well, so if I'm in the stand signing autographs, they know who I am just based off of looking at my suit.
Yep, and you use pretty much the same paint scheme everywhere you go, and that's a good way. If you can keep it the same, then no matter where you go, they recognize you. Like watching the race at Nashville this past weekend, there was 4 number 26s, so it's really easy to get lost in a crowd of cars that are all the same size, same colors and same numbers. So you got to stand out, especially now in this sport. You got to stand out. So I think you've really done a good job with that, and really excelled really quickly in this sport. So obviously the talent is there. Let's take a look at coming up through the years after you got in the past super late models. 2016, you won Rookie of the Year and had one pole and finished second in overall points. That's pretty awesome, and that was traveling throughout the Southeast at all the tracks, right?
Yeah, we would mainly run Hickory, Orange County. There's a couple other races, Southern National. We kind of just hang out around here. I think I finished second at Dillon. We've definitely had some pretty good moments. It's hard right now. I feel I got a well enough team. It's just what it comes down to is just having somebody there that knows what they're doing each race, just to be able to give us that little bit of extra. I don't really feel like I'm getting beat by talent. I feel I'm getting beat by money.
Right.
And that's what's really hard is when I first got into it, the Pro Late model, it wasn't really all about money. It was all about who can last the longest and who can be there at the end. And Super Late model, there are some tracks where if you can be there at the end, then you'll be good. And there are some tracks where you just gotta. Bristol was tough. I feel Bristol is a good for an outsider looking in for our type of racing. I mean, we were going faster than the Cup car, so it was pretty much who had the horsepower and who had the car that could stick the best. That's pretty much what it come down to. And I'm tickled with where we finished 10th, and we pretty much did everything we could. We lacked horsepower, and I feel at Nashville, with it being a 5/8 mile, that's pretty much bigger than any other track we've been to. We went to Richmond one time, and I got beat by horsepower as well. But I mean, pretty much everywhere we go, it's short track racing, 3/8. So that's pretty much, if you got the car handling right, you'll be quick. So it's short track racing is definitely where it's at for me. Short track racing.
Oh yeah, I love the short tracks. Now, let me ask you this before we start looking at some of your accomplishments and get everybody up to date on this past year. What was the thought process, in the North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina? It's primary late model stocks. Now, what was the thought process? Share with us your thoughts about not going in the late model stock and going in the pro late model, super late model way.
I feel going from a super late model from a pro late model it was more so easier. We already pretty much had the straight rail, where late model stock, it is, I guess some people like to say it's more like a cup car, so it'll pretty much get you ready for that. But I feel a late model stock is pretty much just like a pro late model, but it's heavier. The super late model, it's got a lot more horsepower and it's lighter, so you're going to have to for sure worry about tire wear, throttle control, and I feel the overall setup is a lot better. It's more so not trying to keep up the momentum. Let's say if you have the same compound for tires with a super late model, you can run 50 good hard laps on a brand new set of tires and they'll be junk. And you go for a late model stock, you can run 100 laps and they'll be junk. So I was talking with my dad, and we just felt like overall the super late model would kind of form me into a better driver, having to worry about the tire wear and having the throttle control. That is one big thing. If we're able to have the motor open versus restrictors, or have a bigger restrictor than some of the other drivers because they don't know how to use the throttle, that really helps if we need it at the end of the straightaway. So I was trying to figure out what would really form me into the better driver, and I'm pretty happy with what we went with, the super late models. I am wanting to try out a late model stock. I haven't had the opportunity to race one, but it is on my bucket list for sure, along with dirt. I've never really tried dirt before, and that's something that I really want to do, even if it's like a little go-kart, you know what I mean? I just want to try a little bit of dirt.
Well, you know what the bad thing about dirt is? It's dirty.
Yeah, for sure. And I complain about what I got now.
Tony Stevens and I, back, when I was doing this stuff full-time, broadcasting races before video became very user-friendly, we did the last year, 2010, all we did was dirt. And ruined almost all the equipment I had. So,
really?
Yeah, that's what everybody said. Hey, you liking that dirt, Doc? Even the dirt is dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's a great place to go to really learn throttle control like you're talking about. So there's nothing wrong with that. That'll really groom drivers. As you see today at the top level, how many of the top drivers had dirt experience along their path? So there is something to it for sure. We're joined by super late model driver Kodie Conner out of Kannapolis, North Carolina, on the Smokin' Dave's Barbecue Hotline. Remember, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue is located in Roxborough, North Carolina. Tell them old Doc Love sent you. Real barbecue, real flavor.
He's the best. I love it.
Owner-operator, has his own little business and takes care of all the finances and runs that race team all by himself, him and his dad. Small team out here racing with a lot of super late models, big teams, and traveling now. Is this your first year traveling away from the Carolinas to the bigger races?
It pretty much is. We ran, when we ran with Pass, Tom Mayberry helped us out, and we were able to go up to Oxford, Maine for the Oxford 250.
Oh, cool.
And we went there 3 times, and we ended up getting wrecked pretty much every time we went. And we decided we gotta save the money. Going out to Oxford, it's definitely a heck of an experience, but it's 17 hours away, and the funds, I felt it'd be better for us to be able to save a little bit and go out to different tracks. Going to Pensacola, that was absolutely amazing. That track, it it has the history, it's Snowball Derby. And going to Pensacola, that was a real big moment. Jennerstown, it was a lot different because it was more so like a flat race track, but it was fast.
Yeah.
So this pretty much is my first year to be able to go out, and I will say the coronavirus hurt a lot of things, but it did help us be able to venture on a little bit due to some of the races being moved and canceled. So we were able to save a little bit of money there to be able to go out to these different tracks. If I'm being honest with you, we didn't have Nashville in our funds. We weren't planning on going to Nashville, and Cars Tour, we were supposed to run Gresham, and Gresham sold, so we ended up, Cars Tour made Nashville the last points race for 2020, and so we pretty much had no choice because we were fourth in points, and we had the opportunity to get second in points. So we went to Nashville, qualified on the pole, we got a point for that, and during the race we finished 8th, and we ended up getting second in points.
There you go, and that's a score. Win for Kodie, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's a good moment right there.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at your career stats with the Cars Tour. You've had 20 starts, 5 top 5s, 2 poles, and both of those are track records. If I do recall correctly, you have the Cars Tour record at Hickory. Is that still standing?
Yeah.
I forgot to look at that.
That's still standing.
Well, good.
That's still standing. The last time we went there, I had my track record is a 2.4, and the last time we went there, we were running about 6s.
Wow, that is fast. That is so much faster. Yeah, that is incredible. Yeah. And then at the first time at Nashville, at the any short tracker, even an average short tracker, knows about the All-American 400, the 36th annual this year. You go up there for the first time and smoked them in time trials. And as far as I could tell, now this is totally unofficial, so for all the folks that know more about Nashville than I do and super late models, don't beat me up, but as far as I could tell, that is the super late model track record. I could not find anywhere that showed me a faster time than what you turned up there.
Really?
Yeah. I looked at some of the other races, the results, and from what I can tell, that is one of the faster laps in super late model racing up there. And I don't know about weekly. I couldn't find any weekly results. Mm-hmm. But your lap of, I wrote it down here, 18.432 at 116.406. There was one other at 116. It was like a 4 flat. So yeah, going up there to this race that has greats, the Butch Lindley, Bob Seneca, those are heroes of my day when I was a teenager. Gary Ballou, Butch Miller, loved Gary Sainamont, Jeff Purvis went from dirt to late models and made it up to what I always refer to as the Bush Series. Knowing that you raced, down at Pensacola, same thing. All these guys that are well known throughout short track history, and some of them moved up, did great things in the top levels. It's got to be cool for a young guy to go run at these tracks and perform well. I mean, when you went up there, did you have any idea? Did you know? I know you go to win. That's what we're in the sport for. But did you think you had a shot for the pole?
Honestly, I didn't. I had no clue what new tires were going to do. With it being my first time there, in practice, I couldn't afford to put new tires on, so I just had scuffed tires from Winchester, practice tires from Winchester. So luckily it was the same compound. I couldn't really afford to go to Nashville, so I was doing everything on a limited budget, and I didn't know what tire wear was. I was trying to figure out the racetrack, and I wasn't too sure what I wanted for adjustments. It was a little bit tough. I didn't know if it was the racetrack, the car, or me. So that was the hard thing. I had to try and figure out what I wanted with the racetrack, what the racetrack wanted with the car, and what the car wanted with all of us. So once we kind of figured out what we wanted, it was went out for qualifying, and my first time on stickers. I mean, we didn't even get to mock up for anything, so it was. I just pretty much went out there and prayed. I felt like I was going to be about seventh or eighth in time trials, and I was looking back, and I pretty much I was talking to Jeff Foltz, and he says that I pretty much had a perfect line, and I was so smooth, and that's pretty much what it comes down to is any movement in the steering wheel, you're scrubbing speed.
Right.
And with the new tires, I was able to drive her in deep, and I was able to get it off hard. So that was a real good thing. And Nashville, it does have some characteristics. So that was the cool thing is once in practice, I was kind of really learning the racetrack, and that's what really helped me. Friday, we had 4 practices of 30 minutes each. Saturday, we had an hour practice, and then later on Saturday night, we went for qualifying. My biggest worry was not getting enough heat in the tires. I was sitting in the race car for a little while, and I didn't know exactly how cold it was outside. So that was my biggest worry, not getting enough heat in the tires. But we went out there, and it was just an amazing time. We had fast time, and I wasn't expecting that. I was pulling into the pit, just got on the apron, and the spotter says, "Good lap, P1." I was like, "What? Say that again?" I was like, "Huh?" Yeah, that was awesome.
Did a lot of the other drivers come up and say, "Who is this kid? Who is this Kodie Conner kid from North Carolina?" Did that kind of help meet and greet more folks than you normally would have if going up there?
It for sure did. When I got there on Friday and early on in Saturday, I was pretty much just a driver, you know what I mean? And then it was after that, everybody wanted to be my best friend, and that was I couldn't stop cheesing, if I'm being honest with you. My cheeks were sore until yesterday.
That's awesome.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the performance is really good for going to these places for the first time. Now, was that your first time at Bristol?
Yep, first time at Bristol. I ain't never even seen Bristol. I didn't even go see a cup race in the past.
Yeah, because you qualified 8th there and finished 9th. Fantastic. Made all the laps. In Winchester, to me, with how many cars they had there and starting 29, qualified, or you started 16th. I was so thrilled. I was very tickled for you.
Thank you.
And you got in somebody else's mess. I think, if I remember correctly, I think you was trying to get woed up and somebody come in like 85 miles an hour faster than everybody else trying to slow down. So it really wasn't your fault. So that says a lot for the performance. And then take a look at Nashville. Oh my goodness, so tickled for you. Smoked them in qualifying and then finished 8th. Now, let's talk about that particular race here real quick with you. At the drop of the green flag, you kind of dropped back positions. Was that kind of by design?
If I'm being honest with you, I really wasn't sure. Probably maybe 2 or 3 laps in, I started feeling like a small vibration. Like it started off coming down the straightaway, like lap 1, I felt a little bit of something. I was like, okay, it's just a little bit of rubber buildup, and it got a little bit worse. And then, because I really didn't know what I wanted with the car yet, I started off a little bit too loose, so I started getting a little bobble. So I knew I couldn't drive it in as hard, and I just didn't have the horsepower up off the corner down the straightaway. So I really had to make my ground up in the corners, but I was also a little bit cautious of tire wear. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't able to make a long run in practice, so I didn't know how much tire wear would play an effect. And we had to do our pit stop, so with our tire strategy, I wanted to make sure that I had some tire for the end. But what it comes down to is I was a little bit worried with that vibration. I still don't know what it is. I'm thinking it's just the drive shaft. Maybe I need to get like a little bit longer drive shaft. I'm thinking it was just had a little bit too much play in it. But towards the end there, I really got the track figured out. I just wish when we came in for the last pit stop, I would have loosened the car up a little bit. I started off a little bit too tight, and I couldn't really get it to rotate as well as I needed it to. I mean, they counted the caution laps, so that kind of helped. But at the same time, it really hurt because I feel I needed a couple extra laps. But overall, it was great. I mean, that was one of the races where I pretty much drove hard the whole entire race. So to be able to say that I pretty much gave it my all the whole entire race, that's a lot for me. Normally I'm used to these old, worn-out racetracks where you really got to be cautious on the throttle. And here I am, Nashville. I'm giving pretty much 100% the whole entire race, having the time of my life. There's very few racetracks that I can really give it my all every single lap. And that's the good thing about Pro Late Model. Whenever I was starting out, is we would only have we started off with 50, and then we moved to 75 laps, and I was pretty much able to run hard the whole entire race. And that's driving. That's racing the race car. Driving your own car, driving your own track. So that was kind of a throwback for me back to the good old days where I could give it my all every single lap.
And that's a 300-lap race too, so that's impressive to be able to do that for 300 laps. Now, let me ask you this: being a 300-lap race, physically, as far as being in shape, how did that play? Did you get tired at all, or did you notice until after, or did you prepare for the longer race?
I try to be pretty active. I know one thing is I really don't worry about myself. I really never had to worry about myself falling out of the seat, that is. I know whenever I did have longer races in the past, I knew that I was going to be there at the end versus some other drivers, and I know that has always helped me. There were a few times in a Super Late Model and in the Pro Late Model I've lost power steering early on in the race. One time at Dillon, I got hit in the back on entry of 3, and I went to go correct it, and I turned too quick, and I blew the line out. And I went 120 laps with no power steering, and I pretty much learned what I needed to work out then. So once I figure out what muscles I really need, it really helps. The one thing is my neck was a little bit sore, I guess from trying to hold this big head to the left, trying to get that high weight over there. Yeah. But it was a feel-good moment for sure. It really wasn't too bad, but it was Nashville for sure.
Yeah. Plus, got all that adrenaline running and the excitement, so wouldn't notice it till 2 or 3 days later. So that's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I was looking at the qualifying for the whole field. 34 cars were less than 8 tenths, right at 7.5 tenths for 34 cars in the All-American 400 this past weekend, which is 100 for the Pro Late Models and then 300 for Super Late Models. Marquee event for sure for any Super Late Model fan. And that's competition, and plus you're racing other series. The mixture of the series, like it was at Bristol. Racing with a different series, you have to learn some of the things that they do. Like with the Cars Tour, it's traditional short track starting on a restart. You don't go until the lead car fires off. Share with us the experience that you got to experience doing starts out there with racing with the other series under their rules. A little bit different on the restart, isn't it?
It really is. I was trying to get it figured out on what I wanted. With going from a rolling start, pretty much picking up speed, I felt like I was really spinning some tires, so I was trying to figure out some different ways that I could lessen that. But me personally, as a driver, I like the get ready, go.
Gotcha.
I feel that's a little bit better. It gives the leader a better chance, and it also helps for the drivers to be on their toes, because they really got to pay attention. where I was struggling a little bit on these restarts because I was used to slow go, where progressive speed, I was worried about my closing rate on the guy in front, because I know how sometimes on restarts it'll get to everybody's like checking up, then going again, checking up. So that's one thing that I was worried about. I don't want to take the nose off the race car on a restart or a start. But another cool thing about racing with different series is it's a different level of competition. Everywhere you go, that's the cool thing about going out to places, Jennerstown, Nashville, going out to these different tracks. There's different drivers that are able to make those races. So I get a little bit of intel on what they got going on because I can watch them. I can see their driving styles and see how they approach corners, and I can listen to see how they kind of use their throttle control. So that's one good thing about racing against Bubba Pollard is I was able to race side by side with him in the past. So I kind of pick up on what he does for his lift points, and every little bit really helps. So it's cool racing with different levels of competition because you're able to learn from different drivers.
Oh, absolutely. And I tell everybody, no matter what kind of motorsports, from go-karts, RC racing, big full-scale racing, you're only as good as your competition. So if you just settle racing with, whatever level, you're only good as your competition. So that's another thing that I think is real impressive is you look at it that way. And when you race with better competition, next thing you know, you're picking up things and you become a better racer. And that's what makes it so fun, because I believe 25, maybe 27 cars could have won that race at Nashville. I mean, that is some stout competition. Plus, you got Matt Craig, the guys that run the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour on a regular basis. So then you got to race against them too in points. So that's a lot of competition. So that is really awesome that at a young age that you're able to do that, and you put these things together yourself. And it is a small team. So that's got to make it, that you're more proud. You got to be very proud of those accomplishments.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when we got the pole, I was like, this is a win. This is pretty much what I came here for. I mean, I'd like to win the All-American 400, but getting the pole, I mean, that's something that not a lot of people have said they've done, Yeah. So I was really hoping for a little bit better of a performance, but I know what I need for next time. Now that I know what a long run is going to do for me, I made sure I made some good notes, and when I come back, I'll definitely be a lot better. I'm going to try and best my pole time, but we'll see if we can do that.
Well, that's awesome that you're thinking ahead, hopefully, because I know they announced during the weekend that it is on the schedule for next year, and maybe me and Daniel can make a road trip out there and do some videos like we do around here. Remind folks, you did run Pro Late Model here in a startup class division. Now, was this their first year running the Pro Late Model in the Carolinas? And I think they went down to South Carolina maybe. That Carolina Pro Late Model, I know you raced with them. We were there videoing and got the classic finish there. When you went spinning, going for it on the outside or whatever happened on that, because you was right there at the end. How the Pro Late Models is still kind of new as far as deeply in the Carolinas. Share with us about racing with those guys and what it would take to help that series pick up and get more racers and get more involvement.
The Carolina Pro Late Model Series, it's a good series. It's coming. It's new, so that's the hard thing. They've had a great car count thus far. It's I'm tickled that we have a new Pro Late Model Series coming in. From what I remember, the Pro All-Star Series, Pro Late Model Division, that was the last Pro Late Models in this area.
Right.
And we got a lot of great tracks that will have some really good Pro Late Model racing. So was very good for Carolina Pro Late Model Series to come on in. Our first race with the Carolina Pro Late Model Series was May 23rd, I think was the date, at Dillon, and that car that I raced, it was the Trump 2020. We ran that car in the past Pro Late Model whenever I was, it was in 2012, 2013, 2014. We won the 2015 championship with it. So that car is a little out there. To get ready for that race, we had to fix that car from the last time I was at Oxford. Last time we were at Oxford, we ended up getting wrecked later on in the race, and I didn't have the time to fix it because that was a race where it was kind of like a last-minute deal, and went up there, so I needed to make sure that my super late models were ready to go. So that was more so what I was racing at the time around here, and we just didn't have the time to put that car together, and we put it together 2 weeks before Dillon and went out there just to make sure the car ran good. And it ran all right. We finished 5th. It was way better than I expected. It's definitely nothing like a Fury chassis that we have run with the super late model, but it ran really good at Hickory. We ran Carson Quapple runs his super with the Carolina Pro Late models at Hickory, so it's a little bit different, but it's what it comes down to is who has the better setup. So Carolina Pro Late model, it's got a good level of competition. It ranges from you got the top guys and you got the guys that are happy to be there, and I'm just happy that they're here.
Yeah.
It's really going to start building up here soon. I feel the rules are not what they should be. They allow so many different things, and I feel Pro Late models, if we're gonna have a Pro Late model division, we need to have it affordable. And right now it is affordable, but at the same time it's not what it should be. It is a little expensive. You can run pretty much any shock you want. There's some motors that are in there. You can run 602, 603, 604, or you can run the Ford Racing motor. And I have a bone stock 604, so to be able to compete against a Ford Racing engine, it's a little bit tough. The horsepower difference it's definitely noticeable. And it's what it comes down to. I feel the rules should pretty much, you can only go little by little. You can't have these big different changes where you can pretty much run anything you want. But I feel that's just to make it closer racing and better racing. But what it also comes down to is some guys do have a little bit more money than others, so they're able to buy the better equipment. Pro Late models, it's not as expensive as Super Late models, so that's why Pro Late models are good.
Right.
It's pretty much the same as that car. It's the Super Late model is a lot more expensive than Pro Late models. So Pro Late models should be more cost efficient. If not, then we should just run Super Late models.
There you go. I agree with that. Now, look, I don't really know a whole lot about the difference between a Pro Late model and Super Late model. What could you offer if you could sit down with the Carolina Pro Late model and describe to them how other successful areas with the Pro Late models, because I know they are absolutely from Wisconsin to Florida. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, talking with Mr. McNally with the Cars Tour, that's the good thing about running that type of car and Super Late models is you can go from Wisconsin to Florida because it's all the same rules. Pretty much.
Yeah, it pretty much is, and that's one thing. Like when we ran with the Pro All-Star Series, their Pro Late model division, they had a real good package. Like you couldn't do, you had $300 shock rule. Anything over $300 you can't run. Yeah. And I feel that really helps the driver because they're not getting beat by money. It's more so one driver's got a little bit more talent than the other, and there definitely are a lot of pro late model guys out there, but the hard thing is if they are kind of further away, they're looking at it as, well, I got to spend the travel, then I got to spend to make sure my car is up to date and ready to be racing, because just like any other driver, they're going there to win. And it's hard when you got other drivers with a lot of money. They already have the best of the best. They have more seat time at that racetrack because they're closer to it, and it just comes down to a little bit of give and take. There's a lot of just like in super late models, pretty much everywhere you go, there's a series where you only have to change a little bit to nothing, and that really helps. There are some, like a super late model with a crate engine. It can run in pro late models at Hickory, or a pro late model can run in the super late model division in Cars Tour. So that's the hard thing too, is you got to have the tracks that can run. Hickory is kind of an old, wore out track, and it doesn't have long straightaways, nothing like that. So a crate engine, you keep that momentum up, and you'll be right up there with the super late model guys, even though you're lacking like 150 horsepower. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it comes down to setup knowledge and driver talent and throttle control, and that's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, I can beat you because I got $1,000 shocks and you got $300 shocks. So that's kind of what I was wondering on what could cut the cost. And then another way would be limiting the motor packages. Is that?
Oh yeah, that's really big. 602 is cheaper than 603. 603 cheaper than 604. 604, I feel, is where it's at. It's not a racing engine like the Ford is, but it's enough to where you don't have to really service it. Like, that's the hard thing about super late models. Right now, I run a Hamner spec, and this is its third season, and I haven't gotten it refreshed. And you're really supposed to refreshen it after every season, and I don't have the money to buy a super late model engine. That's like $20,000-$25,000. To get it refreshed is like $10,000 to $15,000. You know what I mean? So that's basically like buying a brand new engine, where a pro late model, you buy a 604 crate, bone stock, $5,000. You get all your add-ons for it, and it's pretty much comes to $5,800, and you're out the door.
And
as easy as that.
And it's not as finicky as the high dollar motors, and it's I don't want to say bulletproof, but it's pretty much bulletproof.
Yeah. I've only had one problem with a brand new engine. There was a time we were racing with the Pro All-Star Series and the Pro Late models. We were at Dillon, and this was probably 2014, 2015, and we showed up for practice on Friday, and first practice went out there, our engine blew up. So at the time, my dad knew somebody that had a brand new crate engine, so we drove home. We got the engine, we picked it up, brought it to the shop, and we ended up staying up all night long, swapping engines, making sure the car was ready to roll. Well, when we got to the racetrack on Saturday for practice, I had no oil pressure, so the oil pump was bad. We ended up having to replace the oil pump, and had no practice, went out for qualifying. The shifter linkage was hooked up backwards, so I spun out in qualifying. My lap was discontinued, and we pretty much had no practice and brand new motor, and we started, I think it was dead last at like 13th or 14th, and towards the end of the race, we passed Chandler Smith and won the race.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, that's a good story. That's a good memory to have. Man. That's earning it right there. That's working hard for it.
Yeah. It was a long weekend for sure, but, it's just moments like that. That's another reason why I keep doing this. Not only for the fans. The fans keep me going, and sometimes I keep myself going.
There you go. That's what it's about, man. And speaking of that, I notice on your social media that you have these positive phrases and things like that. Explain that. Where did that come from? Do you make up some of those, or you just pull them that fit for you for the day? Because you always seem to have a positive spin on everything, and I think that's just wonderful for a young racer, a young person, not just in racing, to have an outlook like that the way you do. And plus, you couldn't go wrong with Trump 2020 on that race car. I mean, that got a lot of attention. That was awesome for me personally. I thought that was fantastic. But share about sending out those messages each and every day. How did that start, and when did you start doing that?
It pretty much just started whenever I was going through a rough time, and I've been through a few rough times in my time. I'm only 19, and I look at it as there's always going to be somebody there to be able to help you. So I do have a larger following than some other drivers, and a smaller following than most, but the fans that I do have, I've had a couple of them talk to me in person and say, "Hey, dude, look, this is awesome. You've gotten me through some tough times." And, I'm getting chills right now because it's, I'm helping somebody out. And what I do, I mean, as a race car driver, yeah, I'm racing, but I'm doing it so fans have someone to look up to. And I try to do everything I can to help someone out. And I hope that my motivational quotes, inspirational quotes, are able to get somebody through a tough time, even if it's just a bad day. They can look at my quote, oh, you know what? Now I'm smiling again.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much staying positive will really, really impact your life for the better. I mean, being negative, all it does is just put yourself down. So that's one thing that I've learned is just having a lack of funds through all my racing career. I've always had the fans there to support me, to keep me going, even though I'm not spending $30,000 a race like some of my competitors nowadays. So to be able to come out here, it makes winning a lot harder. But even though I'm doing the best I can is all I can do. And that's the same for everybody. If you do the best you can do, then the best you can do is all you can do. So that's what I try to bring out for some people, is so they can realize that they can only do so much, and anybody can do anything. They just got to put their mind to it.
Absolutely.
And I like to be a change for somebody.
Oh, that's very awesome. That is so cool. And sometimes when you stay positive and stay focused on what you're doing, and not lose track of that by being negative, you might just surprise yourself. Maybe like you did at Nashville, blistering and qualifying. So that's when it's really like, yeah, man, you got to stay positive. So yeah, I think that's awesome that you're encouraging and looking out for folks, man. You have the best interest in folks around you. I think that's a wonderful trait to have, especially when you're looking at the business world on trying to get a sponsor on the side of the car or to help you out in the future. Because you do, like you stated earlier, you have a startup business, lawn care, and so you got to manage that. And it's like racing cars is like managing a business. So that's got to help. And to have success in a business, I don't think you'll move forward if you're always negative. Most people that I've seen in racing, Roger Johnson, for instance, he is like yourself and always has these positive sayings and very encouraging to racers and young racers. And everybody said he was crazy when he bought PRW, but he's been very successful and has helped out a lot of racers. So I see that very same trait. So I think that's awesome. And that's something that you can't teach, man. It's something that comes within, and that's a wonderful trait to have. Well, let's look at where you want to go from here. We're getting close to the end of the racing season. It's November now. One big show left. That's the Snowball Derby, and that's just like Nashville. Lots of history. All the short track heroes have raced there, won there, and you said on your social that wasn't really on your budget right now. So what's it going to take to get you down to Pensacola?
Honestly, hotels and tire money. That's what it comes down to. I was talking, and Christian Eckes, I know he spent roughly $34,000 and won $24,000 in the 2016 Snowball Derby. I mean, he drove one heck of a race, and that's what it takes. It takes a lot of money. If I can find $20,000, then I'll be at the Snowball Derby. $20,000 is pretty much doing it at the limit, but I mean, I can only do what I can do. I feel after going to Nashville, I can pretty much run with these drivers, and it just takes a little bit of money. I feel like I have the mindset for it. I'm ready to go. I've raced Pensacola early on this year, so this will be the best time to go to the Snowball Derby, since I do still have a little bit of the track still in my brain. It's one of the biggest races. It will be one of the biggest races of my career if I can make it happen. And it's something that I'm not going to give up on. I'm going to keep looking forward to it, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make that race. It's definitely going to be a good one if we can make it happen. It's a lot of seat time. I'm not able to go test. I haven't tested at all this year. Last year I probably tested once or twice. So I do lack a lot of seat time compared to some of these other drivers. But I feel my team works very hard. Since I do have an all-volunteer team, they're not looking for a paycheck. They're looking to have a good time and to win a race. So that's one good thing, is I don't have to worry about maybe something not getting tightened or just having to worry on the race car. And that was one good confidence booster for Bristol, is with me maintaining my own equipment. I know I checked every nut, every bolt. I knew all my oils were changed, so I really didn't have to worry about anything except for my engine hadn't been refreshened in 3 seasons. But I mean, she ran really good. Nashville, yeah. She was top of her game. So I'm looking for a little bit of help to be able to make that happen. And it's the biggest race of the season, and if we can get another pole, then we'll have a lot of coverage. I mean, that was one thing, just going the whole way home, or the whole way to the hotel Saturday night. I was just reading all these posts about me, and even still, just everybody talking about Kodie Conner. That's amazing. It was a really good weekend, and I believe people are kind of starting to see who I am and to see what I'm capable of, and they're starting to realize that money does play a factor, and if we can find a little bit of help, then I'll be able to truly show what I have when I am racing with the best drivers pretty much in the world, you know what I mean, for super late model racing, and they all go to Snowball Derby.
Oh, absolutely. And even Kyle Busch, has come down, from the highest level, very successful champion, and comes down to race the Snowball Derby. And that's, that is so enjoyable, and he wanted, and he earned it. He raced hard for it. But that's one that he wanted to win, even though he's made it to the top level. So anybody in racing, that's one that you got to win. If you go there and perform well, that's a great way to launch a good short track career. That is a historical race since the early '80s. But if someone wanted to connect with you, that's listening to this or sees you on social, what's the best way to get in touch with you if someone's serious about helping you out?
You can check out my Facebook, Kodie Conner Racing, Twitter @Kodie Conner, Instagram Kodie Conner Racing. My name is spelled KodieConner. My email is kodieconnerracing@gmail.com. I'm pretty much available at any time, and if you want to have a phone call, you can contact me, and we can talk on the phone for a few hours. I'm mainly looking for connections. Although having the funds to go to Snowball would be magnificent, but if I can keep that connection, that momentum will continue, and I'll bring them all the way up to my ultimate goal is to race in the Cup Series. So I'd like to be able to keep connections, and the more connections I can make, the more races I'll be able to get to, and the more I'll be able to make a name for myself, and the more that I can give back to my fans for their support. As of right now, I would not be where I am without my dad and without the support from my fans. And they definitely keep me going. And at the racetrack, I mean, I still can't get out of my head, you know, just the fans cheering my name. And the cool thing is some racetracks, they allow the fans on the outside of the track, so you can see them beating down the fence. And it's just good times. I'm just trying to make a little bit of connections.
Yeah, and I think, you know, looking at the super late model scene, that, you know, what I can refer to as national scene, because, you know, super late models are more prominent outside of the Carolinas. It's mostly late model stock in a small region, and it's very competitive. But on the national scene for super late models, I think it's been a while since a young driver has come out of nowhere and set the super late model scene on fire the way you have. With, you got a wonderful personality. You have a nose for business, college degree at 19 years old, and raced with the best and smoked them in qualifying up at Nashville. So, you know, when you look at winners through the past years at some of these big races and pole winners, it's been a while since somebody has really come out of nowhere in the super late model scene and really set them on fire the way you have. And I think the fans will latch on to that, which means more exposure. And for some of these companies that are more regional and want to branch out, that's a place to get that exposure, because you're not just racing 2 or 3 tracks within North Carolina. This will allow you to go from Pensacola to Nashville. You know, that's a broader audience for someone to get exposure. So, and I hope someone calls. I hope someone helps you out, because I want to see you down at the Snowball Derby, because I think you'll do well, because that's one of the tracks that are big races at where you actually have notes, because you didn't have any notes for Nashville, did you?
No, not at all.
So, and I really think in that race you will do very well. I have no question about your ability, so it's just a matter of getting you there. So I really hope this works out, and you know, not just from this podcast, but from on your social. I know you sending messages out and things like that. So come on, folks, let's get this young man down to Pensacola.
Thank you.
And see him do well, because I know that you will be in contention, and I think you'll have a lot of fans, because I know a lot of fans that were able to go to Nashville, or fans that were, you know, working with race cars, they'll be down in Pensacola too. So I'm sure you already have a following down there. So it'd be neat to see folks with, you know, the stripes, you know, shirts, or, you know, something that they want to have to show support. You know, you have that niche. I think that is something too that really helps you stand out. Is your car and your scheme is so unique to anybody else. It's easy to remember. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, this has been amazing. You know, I love talking about myself. I do, but I love thanking my fans.
Yeah.
You know, I really wouldn't be here without their support. And I appreciate you giving me a lot of time. I've been on here for a little while. been yapping my gums, but man, this has been awesome. You know, coming off Nashville, that's all I want to do is I just want to talk.
Yeah,
It's been a real great moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's I couldn't wait to connect with you after that to hear that excitement, because you know when you talk about how things and what changed, you know the course of racing as a whole as an industry. Old Darrell Waltrip, winner at Nashville, he changed the scope. He made it okay to talk about yourself. So don't ever think that maybe I'm doing it too much. I think you can't do it enough because that's what gets you exposure. And so he changed the realm of looking in that camera and talking a whole lot. So some people like it, some people don't. But when you approach it the way you do in such a positive way, I don't think you can go wrong. So don't change. Don't ever let anybody try to get you to change doing that, because positive people want to converge to that. People want to be around people like that, and I think that'll be to your advantage. Always that'll be to your advantage. Was there anything else that you want to talk about, Kodie? Did I miss anything? Did you want to bring anything up before we let you go?
I think that's pretty spot on. You done well.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. But I was luckily to see you race with the Cars Tour. Fantastic season. Second in points. Now you got several second in points with the super late models. You do have the Pro Late Model Championship. So, man, we need to work on that championship. I know you can do it. I know you got the ability. But 2020, finished second in the Cars Tour. Just 25 back. You've really gained the last couple races on Matt. So the performance is there. You ran all 8 races, 1 pole, 3 top 5s, 7 top 10s with the series, and that's a very highly competitive series, and performed very well at some of the national races that have the best of the best at these races. Smoked them in qualifying at Nashville. So keep doing what you're doing. I think good things will be coming your way. And it's been a pleasure having you on, allowing me to have a house call with you here. So I always, Dave, one of the producers that put the pictures together with the audio, he says I need to do more things like in doctor terms. So let's see if we can check your pulse here a little bit. All right, on the schedule with the Cars Tour, let's take a look at that. We had Southern National Motorsports Park, Hickory a couple times, of course Bristol, and got to go to Florence, raced, and then Nashville. All right, so let me check your pulse here. Which track provided the prettiest trophy girl that made you blush?
Well, you kind of got me tied to a chair here. That's the hard thing, but I will say Bristol Aaron, she's very beautiful. She was Miss Snowball Derby, and she was Miss All American 400. I actually had the privilege of getting to know her personally, and she's an incredible woman. And I'd say she has a passion for racing. So for her to be able to have that accomplishment, that's very, very. It's something that a lot of people would like to be able to get to. I feel she won that fair and square, and she has a very great personality. And the one thing that I feel society is driving away from is a pretty woman is not looks. It's more so based off of how they are as a person. And I feel as a whole, the world's kind of getting away from that, and I'm hoping that we can steer it back into the right direction. But that's the cool thing, is being able to go to these different racetracks. I'm able to meet a lot of new people and a lot of great people. And that's one thing, is racing is a real big family. And being able to come on this show, the pleasure's all mine.
Hello, I must be going.
I'd like to thank Kodie Conner for joining us on my podcast, House Call with Doc Love. And don't forget, for all your racing apparel needs, check out Black Acid Racing Apparel. Connect with them on Facebook, Black Acid Racing Apparel. Well, we hope to see Kodie make it down to Pensacola for the Snowball Derby. Until then, we'll see you at the races.